going on, guys, and welcome back to LOI Fan TV. In today's video we are going to be discussing what has happened to Troy Parrott. It looks as if it's two failed loan spells for him this season. This season's just ended with Ipswich Town, and for a player that's held in such a high regard, still of course he is, he's so young, but a player that was kind of tipped to have such a huge season this year, it's kind of a shame to see how it all kind of panned out from in the end. So the question we're going to be asking in this video is, what is next for the 19-year-old? Is a move to the League of Ireland on the cards? I'm not too sure about that, but we're going to have a chat about it later on in the video. But before we get into that, let's go back to the very start of the campaign so we can get an idea of where things went wrong for Troy this season. Parrott, of course, joined Millwall on a season-long loan deal in the Championship at the start of the campaign, and instantly expectations were so high. People were expecting him to score 10, 15, 20 goals and come back to Spurs ready to play first team football and be ready to challenge for a starting place on that side. And instantly comparisons were drawn with Harry Kane, a Spurs striker who spent time on loan at Millwall. Might not be a Spurs striker for much longer, but that's a different video, different story in itself. Harry Kane went to Millwall, and of course comparisons were made between him and Troy Parrott. Harry Kane did score 7 times in his loan spell in 22 games for Millwall, whereas Troy Parrott failed to find the back of the net in 14 outings, which on the it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great. But let's look a little bit deeper into why the Millwall spell didn't turn out. So at the very start of the campaign, before I think a ball had been kicked in the Championship, Troy did pick up a nasty quad injury. I was trying to see what it was. It was a quad injury, which is a nasty one to get just before the season started, as I said. So in his first game back then, after he'd recovered from that, he did pick up another ankle injury, which ruled him out for a further 8 weeks, which is, it's still unideal for a young player kind of entering his first season of senior football. Picking up, you want to try and build up momentum and score goals, especially as a striker. You're trying to build up momentum and get some chemistry going with your teammates. It's so unideal to have picked up all these injuries. And I won't lie to you guys and say that I watched a lot of Millwall last season. It would probably be inaccurate for me to offer up a reason, apart from the injuries, for me to offer up a reason for why the loan spell didn't work out all in all. So we got in touch with some people who would have watched him week in, week out. We reached out to the Millwall podcast to see if they could feature on this video, or point us in the direction of a fan who maybe might want to feature on the video, or just let us know some thoughts. They said they would ask who. I wasn't quite so sure, because I was asking them directly, so if they're asking themselves, I don't know why they couldn't just answer. But listen, sure, look, I followed up with them again and they never got back to me, so that was a shame. But listen, I had a bit of a light bulb moment and remembered that a Millwall fan had actually previously left a comment on our channel. This is a video we did on Troy Parrott as kind of a reaction to his move to Ipswich. It was back in kind of January time, and this Millwall fan says he stumbled upon us on the YouTube rabbit hole. He says, when Troy played up front for us in about 3 matches, he wasn't physically ready for the lone striker role. We got hammered in 2 of those games. We stuck him on the left wing to give him some game time where he was largely ineffective. He frequently misplaced passes or miscontrolled the ball. I think we only scored 1 goal from open play in every minute he was on the pitch. That doesn't sound great. We were effectively playing with 10 men every time Parrott came onto the field. He should do okay in League 1. It's a huge drop down in standards these days. Definitely pleased to see him leave anyway, so we don't have to give any minutes to him. We create chances as shown by our last 2 games. Our strikers can't finish though, which is why we wanted Troy. The problem with Troy was he didn't have the experience or strength or reading of the game to get into these positions to get on the end of the chances. If he read how the game was developing, there were 3 or 4 times where he could have had an easy tap in at the back post, but he was caught trailing behind the play. Championship level is too high for him at the moment. I think he will go on to emulate players such as a Chris Wood, Ashley Barnes, Charlie Austin at the best. Not an elite youngster though. Elite youngsters come to the Championship and stand out in matches. He also says, I think someone might have said something about Harry Kane not having a good loan spell at Millwall, and he says Harry Kane wasn't unsuccessful for us. He ended up dragging us away from the relegation zone and into safety. Check his goals, all that kind of stuff. And he goes on to say he thinks Harry Kane was 19 at the time when he played for Millwall, and other elite youngsters have dominated the Championship, such as Tammy Abraham, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Aaron Lennon, Jesse Lingard, Aaron Ramsey, etc, etc. All of them were standout players in their sides, and you'd struggle to find 10 seconds of highlights from Parrott's time with us to put on YouTube. So yeah, not a great reference in terms of how he got on, to be fair. A bit of a scathing report, but we'll break down his message a little bit. So looking at what he says about kind of players dominating the championship and stuff, if you look at maybe a striker like a Jamie Vardy, he only moved to Leicester 25 years of age. I feel like strikers like a weird position where players can come into their own later on in their career a little bit and not be ready for these kind of high level, high elite matches. I think people are maybe thinking that Troy Parrott maybe he's not an elite youngster. That doesn't mean he can't go on to be an elite footballer. It's kind of one of those things, isn't it? Look at Ian Wright as well. I think he's another striker, another good example of a striker that's gone on to be elite and wasn't necessarily an elite striker when he was a teenager in early 20s. And to be fair, if Troy Parrott went on to be at the level of a Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes, scoring 10, 15 goals a season in the Premier League, I think a lot of Ireland fans would take that. That's a really good player to have in your international setup. So if he goes on to be at that level, I'd definitely take that, to be fair. And consistently playing Premier League football, not half bad at all. He was recalled by Spurs, of course, in January, which is, as the commenter says, it is probably best for both sides and probably a mutual decision. He did get a loan move to Ipswich Town for the second half of the campaign, and I thought it was perfect. One step backwards for kind of two steps forward, and plenty of goals in his game, get his confidence back up and running, maybe have another crack at the championship next season, and then come back maybe the season after that ready for the Premiership kind of thing. So just kind of gradually get there. Didn't kind of work out as he would have liked. He started off a little bit slow with Ipswich Town, and back not long ago in mid-March he did actually score his first senior goal to give Ipswich Town a 1-0 win over Plymouth Argyle, and it seemed as though that was kind of the bit of life he needed, a bit of luck he needed, because it wasn't like a great goal. It was kind of a dodgy pass back to the keeper, intercepted it, took it really well. And it seemed like that was like what he needed to kind of kickstart his campaign, kickstart his senior career. And I think people got really, really hopeful after that goal. Unfortunately, since then, it didn't work out as people would have liked. There was a change of management at Ipswich, a lot of off-field issues there. So it's so unideal when a manager signs you in January and then a new manager takes over a month later. It's just so unideal because the new manager you might not be part of his plans, you might not suit his style of play, all that kind of stuff. Speaking on the new manager, Paul Cook did come out with some comments on Troy. He said that he was impressed by Troy. He's a good young player and that he works really, really hard, but a lot of his work is in the wrong areas of the pitch and he isn't effective with his energy, which is a young, naive kind of kid as well. So you kind of have to take that with a pinch of salt because he's going to be like that. He's working hard and he's getting his head down. So since scoring that goal in March, Troy, I think, only started 2 games. He made a couple of appearances off the bench, and it was a long stretch of time where he didn't even make the match day squad. There was no mention of an injury or like a plausible reason for his exclusion from the side. So I was kind of searching for a reason for this. I looked a little bit on Twitter, couldn't really see anything conclusive on this. So we did reach out to the Ipswich Town Bible. I'll leave a link to their Twitter in the description down below. Nice lads. They got back to us and filled us in on their thoughts on the situation. He says that personally he's got very little to say about Troy Parrott. I'm actually hearing he's left Ipswich and gone back to Tottenham. Nothing been confirmed yet. I really haven't got much more to say. The team is so poor. He's not been able to have any effect in the games he has played in, and unless the rumours that he's due to come back on loan next season come to anything, which he says he can't see being true, if he's been sent back to Spurs now, that's his time with the club done. So not an awful lot to say on the subject there, and it's kind of a case of Ipswich have been playing really, really badly, so it's not ideal for Troy Parrott. It doesn't seem like an ideal atmosphere for Troy Parrott to develop in or to play in, really. Interesting that his belief was at the time that Troy had left the club. It obviously wasn't the case in the end, because he did play in the last game of the season and actually scored in that match as well. Obviously nothing really to play for at that stage of the season, but there was a long period where he wasn't playing, so it kind of makes sense why he thought that maybe he would have returned to Spurs, that there was rumours of that, and that he's heard that he's due to return next season. That could be an option potentially. Paul Cook doesn't seem like he's a huge fan, and I presume he'll be the Ipswich manager next season, so I doubt he'll be keeping him on if he hasn't really been involved an awful lot. Looking at a lot of Ipswich's results, really, he's spot on when he's saying that Ipswich are playing poorly, because I think they only scored 2 goals in 7 games in April. Looking at one of the more recent games that I kind of was kept an eye on a few bit of their social media activity, and Paul Cook launched a scathing attack on the team at the end of it. It was like it was a 0-0 draw at home against one of the teams in the bottom of the league, and Paul Cook was embarrassed by the side's performance. So yeah, for Troy, maybe it's better off that he wasn't playing in that kind of atmosphere a little bit, possibly, and then to score in the last game of the season is obviously a bonus as well. So all in all, the Ipswich loan didn't work out as we would have liked and as Troy would have liked, no doubt about that. But it doesn't seem like it was all his fault. It absolutely wasn't. No two ways about it, because there was a lot of problems at the club on and off the pitch. And there's no doubt about it that next season Spurs, who Parrott is contracted to until 2023, they need to find the right club for his development. There's obviously a huge summer for Spurs in terms of potentially losing their star striker. I don't think Troy Parrott's going to be considered an option to come in and fill that void or play any part in the first team next season. I don't think he's ready for that just yet. So I think it's so crucial that Spurs do find the right place for his development. He turns 20 next year, so he does need to get a full year of senior football in, score plenty of goals, get his confidence going, get his kind of groove, get that groove back to his play, because he's such a talented player. And that kind of leads me on to the thing we discussed at the start of the video. Could a move to the League of Ireland be exactly what Troy Parrott needs? Even if it was a 6-month loan deal, so he comes back for the second half of the Irish campaign, and then maybe scores a few goals in Ireland, gets back to his best, then goes back over to a League One, maybe a Championship side for the second half of the English campaign, then from January onwards. I thought that might be something that potentially be on the cards. Just from my own thoughts, I haven't heard anything, no inside reports there at all, no sources of anything. That's just me coming up with that myself, but that makes sense to me. It's logical in my head, so I'm not sure what you guys think, but it makes sense to me. I'm sure there'll be definitely a lot of League 2 sides, and definitely I'd say League 1 sides that would love to get Troy on their squad for next season, and they definitely will be interested, say, in England. So people might say that there is no chance of him playing his football in Ireland this year at all. And the Jack Byrne thing always plays in my head in terms of such a talented player playing in England. Didn't really work out from there, didn't kind of feel at home anywhere, came back to Dublin, rejuvenated his career, kind of comforted by his surroundings. I think that could do the world of good for Troy, just having coming home for a bit, being surrounded by kind of comfortable surroundings, enjoying his football again, which is the main thing, enjoying his football, scoring goals. I think that's exactly what this young kid needs, 100%, to get back to his best, get his confidence going, then pop back over to England and rip it up again. I think that's definitely what I think would be the best for his career. I'm not sure what Spurs will be thinking. I do know it's not too long ago that Dundalk actually nearly captured Troy Parrott on a loan deal. That was according to the Irish Mirror at the time. Reports were that Spurs were all keen for it 100%, but pulled out of the deal due to a growing injury list in their striker department. I think that was when Jose was manager. Harry Kane picked up an injury, maybe one other striker as well. So I don't know, could a move at Dundalk would probably be interested. Probably end his teams, Bows, Shamrock Rovers, possibly a couple of different teams that would definitely take him 100%. And could that be exactly what Troy needs? Who knows? It's one of those where I'll kind of have to wait and see how the summer plays out. It's really, really interesting, and I do want to hear what you guys have to think down in the comments below. Do you think it's realistic, or it's the best thing for him to come back to Ireland, or do you think it's more realistic that he will probably spend the pre-season with an English side and go play in League 1 next season? And just imagine for a second, completely hypothetical, if he was to come back to the League of Ireland, what club should he go to? What club would be most suited to him? And kind of bear in mind maybe the wages as well and stuff like that, like make it realistic as possible. But what club should Troy Parrott go to if he were to come back to the LOI? But guys, I do really appreciate you guys tuning into the video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please do drop a like on it down below. If you can hit 50 likes in the video, that would be fantastic. Make sure to check out the Ipswich Town Bible. Really good guys for getting back to us and helping us out with the video, so really, really appreciate that. If you are new around here, make sure to subscribe. It is greatly, greatly appreciated if you can do so. On the road to 3K, so we want to hit it as soon as we can. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in a bit.